We all know that NATLAN is the nation of the pyro element, and we all know that all nations, not counting Output 1 from Genshin Impact, Mondstadt and Liu, with an MO and Geo, have revolved around the main element of the nation and the archon of the nation. And the whole goal, and the most played teams have revolved around that element and in fact have buffed, improved and tried to make it the most used, both at the level of Keras and of supports, as of equipment. Not only that, but we have Emily. We know the kit, and I know you're waiting for videos of Emily, and we already know the kit from Moalani and Kimmich that we've analyzed here on the channel. Go see it if you don't know or know the kit of these characters. And with all this, we have a lot of clues to find out what NATLAN's goal is. A good ulti from Bennett subscribe. Leave a good comment for the algorithm. Okay. Thank you for supporting the channel. Remember that I help a lot to get the channel exposed, grow up and be recommended to many more people, and all for free. Subscribe, comment, and let's see what NATLAN's goal is. Well, at the beginning, as I said in the intro, without counting Mondstadt and Liu, because it was basically a little Prubita. And it was noticeable that it was a Prubita. In Inatsuma, we were set a very interesting precedent, and for the ancients in Genshin, it can cause us curiosity, and is that there was a buff directly to the Electro. There was a buff to the Electro reactions. The scaling of all reactions improved, Electro in general, and an attempt was made to turn the whole goal around Electro. Without going further and without lengthening the part of Inazuma, because I'll talk about the rest of the stuff and NATLAN's goal, in Inazuma the two most played teams. Two of the three most played teams were the challenge of NATLAN. Raiden Nashio, the Raiden Hypercarry, which is an Electro Monkey, and then the Permafrost of Ayaka, who also came in Inazuma and laid the foundations and precedent of the two best teams of the two. In other words, it was tried to base the playability on Electro. Although it is true that Ye and the teams came out of Ye on charge were very strong but did not succeed, and previously existed other characters Electro. The goal was based entirely on playing Raiden National, who had Raiden C2 and Sarah Chix played Raiden, and Ye's team the Raiden Hypercarry, but it was based on playing Electro. Without going further, we go to Sumeru, who was the nation. That came right after Inazuma, and indeed not only did they lift even more Electro with the reactions of Hyper Bloom and Aggravite, that is Electro with Dendro enhancing the Electro damage, but everyone knows that it was based entirely in Dendro and a Hyper Bloom based team, i.e. a Dendro, a Triple Masters Electro, and a Hydro. It became the most played core, and to this day it still is. And it was of course all based on playing Dendro. Pure Aggrave teams or pure sprint teams were played, Algaisa, Tignari, Nahida, Baiju. Also arrived to improve teams from Sinnoh, Hyper Bloom Dome. Dendro was played and the goal was Dendro. Without going any further, Fontaine. What are we going to say about Fontaine when the goal also came from being Hyper Bloom, who was also? And Novilette went out with Fiorina to play the Monohydros. And within the Monohydros, the most played also is a variant of Hyper Bloom by Novilette. Novilette, Fiorina, Nahida, Kuki, maintaining a little what they want to establish, but with this Hydro element trying to make it literally a hegemony. By playing Hydro at Fontaine. And we're at NATLAN's door, and we're going with the Pyro element. What do we know so far? Well, we have Emily. And when there's a burn in the field, the character in the field, whatever it is, does not receive burn damage. It is reduced by 90%, which is practically no burn damage, and this is already clues. I've talked about it in other videos with which, like the rest of the previous one, what I explained in the context video. Of the nations, I'm not going to be long, but the case with Emily is that she's very good. And that he's gonna be able to play off-burn as a Dendro support on a Bloom team. On a team from Sinnoh, Fiorina, Emily, and Baiju. Frame Nahida for another team. And so on, but obviously, her strong is the burn. Emily's going to be a very good Dendro support, which is going to enable many teams to play on a burn. Very clear examples. Crepitad melted over burn and vaporized over burn. Moalani, we're talking about her now, and above all, pure burn, that this might surprise us. But yes, there may be teams of pure burns which may be very good, a team of Arlecchino, Katsuya, Emily, and Bennett can be very powerful because of their burn damage. Emily sets a precedent and explains what's going to happen. Because NATLAN's nation is the Pyro, and they're going to want it to be based on Pyro, just like the rest of previous nations. And the Archon Pyro, of course. It looks a lot like if it's support in the end and it's not a carry. Because if he's a carry and he's going to start competing with Alakino, with Gaman, and with the usual. And with Hu Tao, and with Yoimiya, and with Laini, and with Klee, and with Yanfei, this is going to be nonsense. I think it's going to be support. And if it's support, we need a 5-star Xiangling. We need an Xingqiu Pyro to apply Pyro. Or many are saying, be a Bennett with steroids. Well, we'll see what the Pyro Archon does, and if there's 2 Pyro Archontes, we'll see. But the thing is, we do know the kit of 2, well, of 3, but one is Geo, which is Kachina. That doesn't count in this video. We know the kit of 2 of the 3. 3 new characters from NATLAN's 550, and soon we'll get to know a little bit more too, because in 5.1, it said that Shilonen will come, Yeo and Chaska Nemo, and what do we know about Kinish and Moalani? As I said at the beginning of the video, and if not, I've already analyzed the kits of these characters, for you to learn about them. Basically, Moalani is like some kind of field cart, carrying the field with Catalyst and running alive. Yeah, just like Novelet. But instead of doing a very gross damage, she's alone in the field. What he does is vaporize his normals, and he can only fit 1 normal every 2 seconds, as I explained to Hydro Gaming. But instead of going down, you're doing like a normal with the shark. But mechanics is similar to gaming, basically. What does this mean? That, at the expense of knowing what the Archon does, and that all the carries that have gone out before the Archonte have improved a Barada with the Archonte. That is when Tignari came out. At first in 3, he improved Infinity with Nahidada. When Rioldously came out, Novelet Laini, they were carries that came out on 4 and 4.1. And their best in slot teams are with Fiorina. And the same thing, Moalani and Kinish are going to play with Mavuika. But today, Moalani, when uprising Kandi, you have several options, how to buy a lot of Pyro. As Xiangling Katsuha Bennett. Although Bennett does not benefit Moalani, but one of Moalani's purest vaporized. It's going to be a vaporized over burn. That is some kind of Dihaya team. Katsuha, Emily, Moalani being able to vaporize and some other combinations of that vaporized on the burn. They're not getting into the Pyro anymore. They're not getting a vaporized on Pyro anymore. And they are no longer getting into a team that today has not exploited the mechanics at all. Although Novelet has a good team of steaming over burn, and they're basically explaining it to us. That's why I left Kinish for the end. Kinish is a Karidandro. For you to understand, it's Algazam's way. Only his game mechanics is incredible. I've seen the gameplays and it looks spectacular to me, besides having a distance from the enemy. I mean, you're not gonna get melee to hit you with the burn damage. Even though you're bossy, because you hit like you're Mega Man or like Samus Aran from Metroid. Why do I explain this? Because Kinish has synergies with Burning and Crepita. It has a passive that when you earn a certain amount of points, you are going to put a cannon stroke or a 1000% scale damage inside. We've already talked about this on stream and I've talked about it in Kinish's kit, so I won't extend this either. But the bottom line is that Kinish seems to be a Caridendro to play pure burn team, but especially Crepita teams that didn't play, as an example for you to understand. The example of the Algazam team Nahida Furina Kuketonto. For example, it is the best in slot today of the Algazam team in Crepita. Well, Kinish usually has some variant of equipment of Crepita, kind of playing Kinish, Emily, Mavuka, and Furina to apply that soft hydro and the damage inflicted on the entire team to increase greatly. Remember that the damage inflicted will not affect either the burn reaction or the reaction of Crepita. But if the gross damage Kinish has with those 1000% climbers, you can put 4 1000% cannons up to then this is just a guess. Pull out clip and in a few months we'll be playing that team. What are they telling us? That NATLAN wants to take off the pyro reactions. What does this mean? We know that Citlali is a cryo character. Maybe Citlali, I do not know if it will be support or carry, but we already know that Ryothesley can take off quite a bit in NATLAN. Emily, Mavuika, Bennett and playing a Ryothesley team over a clean burn. And not like now that Ryothesley's teams burn, they're a little bit dubious, but especially Ryothesley, as it's very melee. He goes down all his life and they're not viably playable because you just lose your life. So, Citlali is probably a cryo support for reverse melts. Or melted over burn. Who knows? Or maybe it's a pure carry to play over burn. He beats Ryosley, and Ryosley stays in limbo if he's not the best permafrost carry, but be very good. And not be the best inverse melt truck, but be very good. All this. It fulfills. It has all reactions that revolve around the pyro. And above all, there's a reaction that revolves around the pyro that we've used a lot, and that so far there's nothing known about NATLAN. But maybe the Archon is a 5-star sea angling, which is having a carry and a sub DPS. Electro and Hydro. And generate a continuous electrocharged reaction on the enemy, and have a pyro off-field like sea angling do a double vaporized reaction and overload the enemy. And it spins much more, even more doubly its mastery, plus the additional damage of the vaporized. Who knows if the Archon is a kind of 5-star Xiangling Shenchu that can do these two functions well? And who knows if this super vaporized reaction explodes at all, which is called in NATLAN. The goal is quite clear that they want to introduce us to the beginning. Reactions on the burn. Emily, generating burn. And Rissy can melt. Teenage bang burn and teams. And they're gonna play as I just told you. And as you can tell, a lot of pyro reaction teams. So we'll see, and let me in the comments your speculation about the Archonte and the rest of the characters, and what element can become captain, and if it may have anything to do with all this, little more. This is the idea of the sketch being drawn. About the playability of the characters. And NATLAN's most played teams. I hope you loved it, and blow up the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for hitting us so much.
Okay.
Help a lot, it costs you nothing. Leave a like. One good last time. Subscribe. Leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thank you for all of the support. Take care of yourself. See you and bye.